Now for today's short program, our member engagement committee is featuring club member Bob Boeshaar, the classification of law practice. Our very own commentator, John Steckler, classification business consultants and services, has become better acquainted with Bob and will now report for your situational awareness and enjoyment. John, the podium is yours, sir.
Yes, I'd like to start with this short video first. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody. Actually, yeah, there's nothing more exciting when technology goes in the toilet, is there? Okay, so I've got a PowerPoint that I'm going to try and bring up that Caroline was going to bring up. So let's see if you guys can give me. I've been disabled on screen sharing. Grant, screen. I can bring up. There we go. Okay, here's the question. Can everybody out there see my screen right now? And it says member spotlight. Can you see that? All right, so we got some technology going. I'm going to be Caroline on my left hand. I'm going to be John Steckler on my right hand. And here we go. Fellow Rotarians, honored guests. Yeah, they say there are only two things in life you can count on: death and taxes. Well, death, I leave that up to everyone to handle in their own way. But taxes, I'm sure glad that we have someone like Bob Boeshaar that we can look to for help. See, Bob is a Seattle 4 Rotarian with classification of law practice. He's also the owner of his own law firm that specializes in tax law, and he is our Rotary Spotlight Member of the Month for December 2021. Now, let me tell you a little more about Bob. He was born in Santa Monica, but his family moved to Seattle when he was 1.5 years old. So he's lived here ever since. In my book, that makes him a Seattle native. Bob's father was contracted by and later went to work for Boeing. Bob's mother was an elementary school teacher that taught English as a second language. Now, here's an interesting fact about Bob. His parents were, let's see if I can make my screen work over here. There we go. Bob's parents were having trouble getting pregnant, so they decided to adopt. They adopted little Bob right here, and now they were a family. But you know what? Bob also brought luck, because a few years later, Bob's mom did become pregnant, and Bob welcomed his baby brother, Scott, into the family. Now, when Bob was in college, his parents accepted guardianship of Bob's foster sister, Crystal, and now the family was complete, although through numerous different channels. And since Dad worked at Boeing, the family settled in Renton, where Bob was raised. He attended Charles Lindbergh High School. Here he is, when he was active in numerous youth groups and even played trombone in the school band. After high school, Bob attended Wheaton College, where he graduated with a degree in English literature. After college, Bob knew what he wanted to do next, because since the 7th grade, he had always wanted to be a lawyer. Asked why? He said 2 reasons. 1, the intellectual challenge of being an attorney, and 2, he truly wanted to help people. He went to Willamette for law school, immediately went to work at Perkins Coie afterwards as a temp, working on a class action suit. But Bob wasn't done yet. He enrolled in the master's program at the University of Washington, and he earned his Master of Laws in Taxation. Taxes, I had to ask. Why taxes? Most of us spend our entire lives trying to minimize or avoid our time on this topic. Is usually the more time we spend on taxes, the worse it goes for us. But Bob is a very analytical, has a very analytical mind. He likes to break things down and then put them back together again. He was fascinated by the design and structure of the tax code. He sees how it fits together like a puzzle to fund our government and our way of life. After the University of Washington, he immediately went to work for the IRS itself. Hey, if you want to learn and understand how taxes work firsthand, you go to work for the IRS. Bob stayed there for 14 years. Now, the first 10 years were great. Bob got experience as a trial attorney. He had over 40 published opinions, and he just grew and grew and grew in experience. The last 4 years were a challenge, as it was a lot of the same thing over and over, as Bob saw firsthand the slow hand of government bureaucracy. So he decided to open his very own law practice. And in January of 2013, he did just that, and he's never looked back. The mission of Bob's firm is to help individuals and small businesses solve their IRS problems. I think you can see how this all goes back to one of the 2 reasons why Bob became an attorney in the first place: to help people. Well, Bob is not alone in his life mission. He and his now wife, Nancy, well, they grew up only 2 miles away from each other. They'd known each other since 6th grade. They attended many school and church youth groups events together before they kind of fell out of touch after high school. Then the events that would change their lives happened. See, Bob decided to go to a Christmas Eve service back in 2010. Nancy was there, and she looked good. 2 months later, Bob worked up the nerve to call her and invite her to coffee. Coffee went well, so they started dating. Dating went well. So in August of 2011, Bob asked Nancy to marry him, and she said yes. And on March 3rd, 2012, they were married back in Renton among family and friends. They decided to make their home here in Seattle in the Green Lake neighborhood. Now, here's an interesting story about Bob and Nancy. They also had challenges getting pregnant, so they decided to adopt. And on February 13th, 2017, they got a call from the agency that tomorrow a baby girl was to be born and that they could pick her up and adopt her the next day. So on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2017, Bob and Nancy picked up their newborn baby daughter, Lillian Grace Lou Boeshaar. She is the greatest Valentine's Day gift Bob and Nancy ever received. Yeah, I always like to ask Rotarians who introduced them to Rotary. In Bob's case, it was Bob. He came to us because, well, he not only wanted to meet other business people, but he was attracted to our mission to help people. This is the same mission Bob has had his entire life. So on March 27th, 2014, Bob was inducted into our club 7 years ago. Together, Bob and Seattle Rotary are a match made in heaven. Bob is also an active runner, who runs at least 3 times a week, kind of clears his mind, energizes his body and soul. He's also a volunteer with the University of Washington Low Income Taxpayer Clinic. They help taxpayers who could otherwise not afford it. Now, let's see. I told you about the lawyer, the father, the runner, and the Rotarian that is Bob Boeshaar, but I haven't really told you about the kind of person Bob is. You know, so many people in life are obsessed with what they don't have or what they aspire to achieve, and they don't take time to appreciate what they have. Well, Bob is just the opposite. Bob lives his life appreciating what he has and is not obsessed with what he doesn't have. I admire him for that, and so many other things. And I'm so glad that he is our Seattle Rotary Spotlight Member of the Month for December 2021. Fellow Rotarians, I give you Robert Boeshaar classification, law practice. Back to you.
Thank you, John.
I think I heard Bob say thank you. So if you go, I'll see him on your screen.
Yeah.
There he is.
Thank you very much for those kind words. I'm really happy to be a Seattle Rotarian.